Is up, Big Ten backers? We are back for another show. We got a special guest coming in today. Ace is joining us, but before we get started,
What a bunch of Buckeye nuts. Let's Happy Valley. You never had a buck. You got 10.
all right, my man, we're back. Thanks for joining us, man. You bring the Will Howard truth, right?
I bring the truth of Will Howard.
Tell us a little bit about what your video what happened with your video, first of all, what your likes were like, what your views were like before Will Howard announced he was going to Ohio State afterwards, and what made you come up with the video in the first place.
All right, so when I first made the video, it was in anticipation of K-State season because I run a K-State show. And
what's the name of the show? Rep your show, man.
Aggieville Alley Cats. Aggieville is the bar district in Manhattan, Kansas. It's a great place. They have like really, really cheap alcohol, which is what you want in a college bar district.
Oh yeah.
I made the video because Will Howard had a very, very interesting sort of career arc at K-State, and I made it in anticipation of this season or this previous season. It was sitting at about 5,000 views, so it was the most viewed video on the Alley Cats YouTube channel. And then it came out that first off, the spike in views happened after the season because it was rumored that Will Howard was going to be transferring to Ohio State. So the transfer wasn't even official yet. And the Ohio State fans came in, and all of them were really, really awesome about finding the video and learning a lot about Will Howard because, at least in K-State circles, he was, for the longest time, one of the most hated quarterbacks or at least one of the most hated players for a while. And then he had that magical run in 2022. And even going into the 2023 season, which, if you look at a lot of objective metrics, was a success, he remained one of the most polarizing figures in K-State.
How so?
Well, you had a lot of people who really, really didn't like Will. And it wasn't a personal thing. They just didn't think Will was that good. And these people a lot of them got stuck on the fact that Will was not very good.
Oh, man, sorry. Give me a second.
You're good.
There we go. Lost you for a second. All right.
We're good.
AJ's joining us. I just don't have this set up for three-way. All right. Now we got our three-way. Orgy in the end zone,
three-way
baby.
house. What's going down, Ace? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. Yes, you giving us the lowdown on Will, huh?
Yep, on good old Will Howard. But a lot of why he was so polarizing at K-State was people got stuck on his freshman year, which was the COVID season, where he didn't get a spring camp. He barely got a summer camp, and he was thrust into the job at the I think game 4 of the COVID season. And he performed about as well as you think a true freshman in that situation would, which is he did fine, but he wasn't remarkable. And K-State has a terminally online fan base that does not tolerate anything less than perfection. So the narrative just stuck with Will throughout his entire career at K-State, even when he was doing really, really well. If he wasn't playing perfectly, it wasn't good enough for half of the fan base. The other half, which I was a part of, always loved Will. And that's like as a person, because I've met him. He's one of the nicest people that I've ever met and talked to. And he's a guy that you just want to root for. And he had a pretty good season his last 2 years at K-State. It's just he was so polarizing just because people kind of wanted to shoehorn him into the narrative and be right about how he wasn't good those first years.
So let's go over it a little bit. The stats for Will Howard. Man, he started his first year was at 2020 with a 53% completion percentage, ended at 2023 with a 61.3, I believe, and he had 24 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Now, that's not bad stats, but Honda McCord got run out of Columbus with 6 interceptions, man. He had 3,125 yards, 24 TDs, and 6 INTs in his third year with a 65.8% completion percentage. What's the difference between those stats and what Will Howard's going to bring to Columbus?
A lot of those stats that Will Howard has, what you can categorize his interceptions into really 2 major categories: right decision, wrong throw, or pressing. With the first one's the easiest. If you look at a lot of his throws, especially up against his interception up against Troy, one of his interceptions up against Missouri, and one of the interceptions up against KU, he made the right read. He just stepped away from where his angle was on the throw, and he like I said, it's right read, wrong throw. And
was that one of the cases where he was falling away from the throw and not stepping into it?
Yeah, okay. And sometimes he got a little too cute. Will is going to be a guy who his best trait is going to be whenever you give him a good opportunity to sort of sit down, relax, and get a proper angle. Like if you give him a clean pocket, he can work. And even with a muddy pocket where he has to roll out, he can work pretty well. But he got a little too cute sometimes, not only with fading away, but with different arm angles and stuff like that. And that's just not Will. That's not who he is.
Yeah, okay. To me, I think that's going to be the difference between him and McCord is the offensive line. I still think will be an issue for Ohio State. And I think Will can be the quarterback that can kind of, work through muddy waters, unlike Honda, if you will. Now, I think Honda has a little bit better arm talent, but I think Will has a little bit better all-around talent as far as running and scrambling and kind of moving the ball.
Yeah. Before we get going, we got to give Dominique Ambrose a little shout-out. He says, "What's up, fellas?" What's up, Dominique? Thanks for joining the show. Anyway, all right. So, Will Howard, the biggest drawback you said in the video was that falling away, the mechanics. The mechanics got better over time. While we were off air, you mentioned that there was possibly something that his quarterback coach would yell at him for.
Yeah, allegedly, Will, whenever he had an inaccurate throw, allegedly there was a member of the K-State coaching staff who may or may not still be there, who said, and I quote, "Feet, Will, fuck, feet!" And
I can see myself saying that. Get your feet right, man.
But yeah, with Will, it's always been footwork.
This alleged coach was a special quarterback kind of guy out there in alley cat country, huh?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Sure was.
Like a 2012 Heisman candidate, maybe?
Yeah, he probably should have won that one.
How much a passing game do you think you'll see improve for Will Howard under Ryan Day?
Under Ryan Day, I think that the passing game is going to be a lot more, definitely sort of, how do I put it? I think it's going to be a lot more intricate. Welcome back. I think it's going to be a lot more intricate in that I don't want to say that the passing game he had under Colin Klein was basic or simple, but I think it's going to be a sort of combination between the first offense that Will had under Courtney Messingham, which implemented a lot of option routes, which don't ask a true freshman quarterback to read out an option route when he barely knows what he's looking at on the field. And the sort of, you have a guy that's pretty reliably schemed up open with the Colin Klein offense. I think Will is going to be able to run a Ryan Day offense in a very rapid, like 1, 2, 3, get to your reads situation, because that's always been Will's strong suit. Even when he wasn't like all that amazing as a true quarterback, it wasn't because he was making the worst decision in the world. It's like I said, it's just, right read, wrong throw.
Now, do you see him having more weapons at Ohio State, or do you think that's not going to play any issue to how he performed at Kansas State versus what he'll do at Ohio State.
Well, I'll say that his weapons are definitely better than they had than he had at K-State, especially in terms of receivers, because that was a big sticking point for Will Howard supporters for this last year. Was outside a true freshman in Jace Brown, who made the tactical choice of becoming Avery Johnson, the true freshman quarterback's best friend. The receiving core was either injured or woefully inconsistent. And I don't think that'll be as much of a problem for him at Ohio State. He probably won't have as good a tight end as he had, which was Ben Sinnott, who ended up being a second or third round pick in the NFL to Washington. So probably not going to have as good a tight end, but receiving core, running back, yeah, he's going to have a lot. He's going to have a lot more to work with.
Gotcha. How well do you see Will Howard fitting into the Ryan Day offense, if you will?
Oh, I think that in a lot of ways he fits that mold very, very well into what the Ryan Day offense sort of is, where Ryan Day's offense, just sort of even going back to when he in the early days of Ryan Day and the late years of Urban Meyer, where it was this sort of 1, 2, 3, get through your reads sort of offense, look for the big play. It's sort of like a blend of modern spread offenses with sort of West Coast philosophies. And that's always where Will, I thought, has always had the best chance to succeed, is in that West Coast kind of like West Coast spread offense where you just give the quarterback a clear picture and then just let him work. So I think he's, in a lot of ways, I'm not going to say he's the perfect Ryan Day quarterback, but he's a damn good one.
One thing we didn't mention was the running aspect. So 9 touchdowns, 351 yards on the ground? Those are a lot of mostly short yardage touchdowns, right?
Yeah, the touchdowns are mostly short yardage stuff because bro's a fucking tank.
6'5". What does he run in a 40?
Not fast. He runs probably I would guess like a 4.8 or a 4.9.
Oh, hey, really? Abrams don't move fast, but good luck stopping him, right?
Exactly. Will's thing is he's not going to get up to his top speed very fast, but once he gets there, it's a fucking bowling ball. You cannot stop him. You have to grab his 70-yard.
He had a 70-yard touchdown, right?
Yeah.
Who was that against?
Enough.
Okay, yeah.
He also
that was when he had a good second half and almost came back.
Yep.
Man, and that was a good team too.
Yeah,
I think I picked Kansas State in that game, and you were like giving me all kinds of shit, and they almost won, just barely lost that.
Maybe it might be. It might be a real place. I don't know, Andrew.
No, not in your life. It's not real. You come here, you'll see how fake it is.
All right, so you have Coach Klein and Ryan Day. So you think there's a lot of quarterback cleanup that Day will have to get into from Coach Klein, or is it kind of a even transfer over from the kind of the coaching styles?
The coaching styles are going to be way different because Kleiman, at the head coach at K-State, and everyone on his staff sort of has a very, very, I'm not going to say completely hands off, but they let the players kind of take ownership of it. And in terms of pure coaching, Klein there are a few things that Ryan Day is going to have to clean up. Most importantly is going to be Will's feet, and you have to be sure that he doesn't start pressing.
It's different.
Cleveland is its own thing.
No, that's its its own creature.
I hope you've been there in winter, because I wouldn't even go there in winter.
I try not to go there at all, if possible.
I've been there 2 or 3 times, possibly. And that was all to see LeBron. That was it.
It's a good reason to go.
Yeah.
And Dave Matthews, of course.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Another good reason, right?
Yeah, that's a good-ass reason. But
anyway, where were we at where I got so rudely interrupted about Cleveland, Ohio?
It was the thing that Ryan Day is probably going to have to clean up most with Will is he's going to have to stop him from thinking that he has to be a hero, and he's
Okay.
going to have to tell him to like stay focused. Will, like, if you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get hit. It's gonna happen anyway. So just step into your throw and drive it.
Yeah. And you fabulously put that on the video, man. All those fallbacks where he's throwing off his back foot, and he's just not following through. He's not getting power under his arm. I think he'll have a better arm if he can learn to step through, throw off that front foot, and not be fading backwards. I mean, it's like a LeBron shot, like a fadeaway.
The key to me, what Ace said was hero. Like, he doesn't have to be the hero in Columbus, man. You have that defense.
Not at all.
You have those running backs. You can play into the running game. Do not play hero ball. That's what they don't need Will Howard to do, in my opinion. Like, you could literally lean on that defense for most of the season, outside of a handful of games, even a handful, maybe Oregon, Michigan in the playoffs. Like, you don't really need the offense to do anything too crazy. No hero ball at all that they need from Will Howard. Just be smart, make good decisions.
A lot of it is just getting that ball up to the receivers too. Let them make a play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and fit it into tight spots. But man, what I'm worried about is he won't run. He's gonna save the runs, gonna want to prove that he's an NFL quarterback by making the throws. Day's been known to do that too, not take advantage of the running quarterback. He wants to save him, but there's a quarterback room right now. I mean, before when Fields was there wasn't a room.
I'll say one thing: Chip Kelly.
There wasn't backups. Chip Kelly, yes, and that is good. Chip Kelly will probably press Day, and Day will listen. Chip Kelly's the only person that can bitch slap Day into running a quarterback. Hey, bitch, run the damn ball. And he might say it just like that.
Who calls who coach?
That's good.
It might be a mutual thing. It might be a mutual.
Coach.
Like,
Hey, coach. Chip Kelly's got to demand more out of Ryan Day. There's sometimes, man, when he's running a jet sweep on 4th and 2 to lose a fucking game. I can't believe that, man. And you wonder why Lou Holtz. Do you believe Lou Holtz? Was Lou Holtz right when he said Ryan Day's soft ass motherfucker? Basically.
I mean, have you seen his midsection? He's definitely soft. Just like me.
What do you think, Ace? From an outsider's point of view, from non-Big Ten country, is Ryan Day running a soft program?
I will say, be careful with the Doughboys. You have one in your presence.
Oh, I'm a doughboy.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't really paid it. I'm not a big. I'm more of a like diagnose the field kind of guy than like an evaluate a culture kind of guy.
Okay. Yeah.
I will say that the few times I have watched Ryan Day meltdowns, which I have witnessed a few of them. He seems like a yeller more than he is like someone who's genuinely threatening.
Yeah.
Well, he definitely got a little fire to him with him and Greg Schiano, man. Like, they almost got into it, obviously, after the Notre Dame game. That was another incident. And then go back to Lou Holtz. He spits, but Notre Dame swallows. That's all I'll say.
At least they did in that game. Not against the old Heisman, the reigning Heisman winner. We were there for that.
Yeah, that was
They definitely weren't swallowing there. They were putting. No,
that was
ass raping.
That was bad. That was a fun time though.
Bending them over dirty. That was a great game, man. If you get a chance to get out to Notre Dame, go. That was a beautiful stadium to go to. The crowd was awesome. People were generally nice and knew a lot about football. It was a great time.
Yeah, we definitely need to rank our top 10 Big Ten atmospheres.
For sure.
We've been to, obviously, with the new guys, we got some to see. We were going to make it out to Eugene, but then I definitely won't be there. But unfortunately,
well, where are you going to be, man? You ain't got anything better to do.
Uncle Sam's, he said otherwise.
Oh man, make him pay for the plane flight back.
I wish it was that easy.
Hop on one of them jets. It'll be free.
It's all right. I'll do the flyover. I got this.
You got it.
Untrained and don't fly.
That's right.
Yeah, I got this.
All right. We got to get some more questions for Ace, man, because he's got to get out of here and jump off here pretty soon. So you got anything else that you wanted to add?
Hey, give us a lowdown on your show. I know you probably did it earlier, but give us a little bit more plug on your show. Talk about Kansas State, man. What are they looking at this year? What are you looking from them? Give us a lowdown on kind of your piece and your team.
I will say that I run the Aggieville Alley Cats podcast, which covers all K-State sports from football, women's basketball, baseball, men's basketball. We've covered golf before. I don't recommend doing that, but we've done it. But it's,
don't worry, we won't.
it's me and my best friend just talking about K-State sports. And in terms of what K-State football is looking like this next year, the heir apparent to Will Howard and also the reason why Will left, Avery Johnson, who's kind of like the golden child for K-State, Kansas kid, runs faster than probably any other K-State quarterback, has a rocket attached to his right shoulder. Like, he's the heir apparent. So there's a lot of hype going into the K-State season on that front. But you also have a bunch of transfers, like former Colorado standout Dylan Edwards, who was Avery Johnson's childhood best friend, who at one point committed to Notre Dame. We don't talk about that entire saga, but I'd like to say that the expectations for K-State this year are probably college football playoff or bust, which is wild. But the big competition for K-State in the Big 12 is probably going to be Utah. But this is a roster that either Will Howard or Avery Johnson probably would have taken pretty far and probably made the Big 12 championship with.
You're not going to give that Oklahoma State
That's
Cowboys some love?
Hey.
Don't forget about old Ollie.
Ollie Gordon?
Every time Oklahoma State has had expectations to be good, they've been just okay. And every time that they've been left for dead, they've come out of nowhere and killed people. So I'm going to give them their credit where it's due. But they also are going to
suck ass.
I don't think they're going to suck ass. I think they're going to be like probably third or fourth in the Big 12. They're also coming to Manhattan, and it's a trade-off every year between win in Stillwater for them, win in Manhattan for us. And the last time they came to Manhattan was the 45-0 shellacking, where I got a selfie with Will Howard. So,
oh, nice.
So you got to see a genuine ass whipping.
Yes.
All right, what do you predict for Will Howard at Ohio State? What's going to happen?
Well,
record. Who are they going to lose to?
The thing is with Will is I trust Ryan Day and I trust the weapons around him to sort of Will Howard is going to be elevated by the weapons around him, and Will Howard is also going to elevate the offense around him. I think it's a win-win situation for both sides. I struggle to say that I think Will Howard's ceiling is probably second team All Big Ten quarterback, and your floor is probably honorable mention. Like that.
Second team All Big Ten is a national title. If he's second team All Big Ten, Ohio State wins the title.
Yeah, that's probably his ceiling. I'd say his floor is knocking on the door of honorable mention for Big Ten.
We'll take it.
In terms of Will Howard has had the tendency, except for in that magical year, to have one what the fuck game per year. And that's one positive WTF game and one bad WTF game.
All right.
Last year it was positive for Texas and negative for Oklahoma State. But I could see Will very easily leading Ohio State to a college football playoff berth. Maybe, I don't know what, like where I get stuck is.
That'd be awesome if it was against Texas, man.
Oh,
get to play Texas
for the revenge game. Ooh.
That would be money for him in overtime. He runs that 2-point conversion in.
Ooh.
Holy shit! In case you didn't know, we talked about the overtime game against Texas. I think that was off air before you joined us a little bit, and how Will Howard just had a man-child of a game in the second half, got them into overtime. They didn't go for two, lost the game against Texas.
Oh no, they went for two. They just failed.
Mm-hmm.
They went for two, yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's how they lost the game. Yeah, instead of kicking the field goal or kicking the extra point and tying it up.
Yeah, because Byron Murphy got up against Hayden Gillum. That's not a winning fucking matchup. But
Never
The-
is.
what's giving me pause for projecting the season is I'm really high on Penn State because Andy Kotelnicki is a fucking genius. I made a video on Alley Cats talking about
Yes, push
him and his offense in relation to Jalen Daniels and Jason Bean, which Jalen Daniels was getting like top 10 quarterback in the country hype out of KU. He didn't deserve it because his backup, Jason Bean, was the exact same quarterback. And that's all because Andy Kotelnicki,
Yeah, you could tell because as soon as he went out, man, like Bean didn't like drop a beat. Like that
No,
offense
not at
didn't
all.
drop a beat. They
No.
stayed on pace. Like it was when he got hurt, I was like, oh, there goes their season. But man,
Yep.
Bean came in and just ran with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember I predicted Kansas would win the Big 12. Fuck that up. That was bad. That was a bad pick.
Yeah, they had a good run.
Yeah.
Andy Kotelnicki also led a third-string walk-on quarterback to like 24 points up against K-State. I'm glad that
Telling you,
motherfucker's gone.
Drew Aller is going to have a season. He actually had really good stats last year if you go back and look at him.
Yeah, but the narrative's already been formed. It's like Will, the narrative's already formed. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, he's screwed.
Yeah,
I think-
the narrative was there.
I think
It's
Aller
just
has
'cause-
good stats against bad teams, but anytime he played anybody with a pulse, man, outside of I guess Iowa, but Iowa has half a pulse, so I'm not sure.
Well,
if
I
that
mean, he
counts.
played. I think you're taking a lot of respect of Michigan's defense, man. What he played against Michigan, and Ohio State, the two top three defenses in the country.
But who else was good last year in the Big Ten?
Nobody.
That's
So, I mean, but that's kind of Penn State's thing. They like to be perennial number 3 in the Big Ten.
what are they going to be now? 4, 5?
Okay, we'll see.
Andy
To be
Kotelnicki, number
seen.
1.
And they got a manageable schedule.
They do.
Very manageable schedule. So I think it's playoff or bust for Penn State, really.
Oh, it should be. And then you talk about Penn State, I mean, and Ohio
But-
State. I mean, Eugene and man, and that game in
At State College,
Penn
whoo!
State College. I mean, that's
I-
two
and
of the
they're calling
roughest
for-
road games.
They might not get it as a whiteout. So their
Probably not
whiteout
the
game
big
will be
noon
like
kickoff.
Illinois, because Fox is going to make that a big noon kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
But why not just white it out during the day, man? Just get your shit going. Anyway, I want to bring you back to those turnovers by Will Howard. So we have a saying on here, and it is giving away balls more than Dylan Mulvaney. And that's one thing that we cannot see out of Will Howard for this season. We want him keeping his balls. No more Bud Light commercials. Let's get this shit going.
Yeah. Will, like I said, a lot of his you can separate his turnovers into two things: pressing, right read, wrong throw. You're going to have to deal with the second one. The first one, I think, will be a lot more manageable in a Ryan Day offense, because I think that what Ryan Day is probably going to tell Will in several more probably angrier words is you don't have to play hero ball to be the hero. You can be the hero just making the right decision and moving the chains. And I think if Will is able to get that like squarely drilled into the old noggin,
Mm-hmm.
he's probably going to cut his turnovers in half and his turnover worthy play percentage by like 3/4.
All right,
That would be awesome.
one last question for you, man, and we'll kind of let you do your thing. What do you see in his Heisman hopes? He's getting some Heisman odds out there since he's going to be the quarterback in Columbus. What do you think of his chances of, say, being in the top 3 for the Heisman?
This entirely depends. Can I claim the Heisman as an assist from K-State?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Then he's
Yeah.
winning it. But I don't think Will is the kind of player with the ceiling of Heisman. We always jokingly called it Will Heisman season because K-State always comes up with some creative name. for their quarterback. Like with Skylar Thompson, it was Skyzman season, but he was never worth that, by the way. But Will's he's going to perform really, really well. But I think where he's going to end up lacking is probably in those Heisman moments, because if all things go to plan, he won't need any Heisman moments.
That's true. That's kind of one thing we have said. He needs to be serviceable. We need him to just make the plays. We need him to not turn the ball over. We need to keep the balls in his pants, per se, more so in his hands. We need him to win the game by just being a manageable quarterback, getting those first downs on thirds and short, thirds and medium, by running the ball, and just being who he is, other than throwing fadeaway shots.
Yeah, I say the only way he ends up in the top 3 is that you just all have a good production year out of quarterbacks throughout college football, and then he's, a good quarterback on an undefeated team. I think that's kind of his best chance.
So, if you're a Big Ten fan, go check it out. Iron Will, the Ballad of Will Howard. Man, awesome video. It went from 5,000 views to 14,000 views. Maybe because of Ohio State fans. Also, what's the name of the video for Andy Kotelnicki?
How one man created the same college quarterback twice.
Oh, that's actually that's a great title, man. I like it.
Thank you.
We got to come up with a nickname for Kotelnicki, too.
We do.
I just called him AK.
There's got to be something funny with that.
I just called him AK.
AK. Yeah.
That works.
We got to come up with... Yeah, that'll work for now. AK. We got AK at Penn State doing his thing. He's going to take Drew Aller to the next level, man. We'll get you back on to talk about that sometime later or before the season, probably. All right? We'll do a Penn State show and get you on.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Man.
Thanks for having me on, man.
I appreciate it, Ace.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Yep. Have a good one.
You too. Appreciate you.
All right. I guess it's time to pay some bills, man.
Let's pay them. The lights are still on. Don't turn that shit off on me.
Icy Breeze is the world's first portable air conditioner and cooler. A premium ice cooler that doubles as an eco-friendly portable air conditioner. This is not a swamp cooler, just blowing air across ice. Over 60 parts and components allow Icy Breeze to achieve what no other product in the world can do. The secret behind the Icy Breeze is an innovative design that circulates chilled ice water through a heat exchanger in the lid, replacing the Freon used in most ACs. Fresh air is drawn from hidden vents in the top of the cooler, pulled across the exchanger, and chilled down to 35 degrees cooler than the outside air. A 3-speed fan control delivers Icy Breeze's dry, cold air up to 25 miles per hour, just like a car AC. And a stay-put flex hose directs the breeze in any direction. Wherever you need it, Icy Breeze helps you beat the heat.
All right,
Yeah,
welcome
man.
back, Big Ten backers. Commercial is over. We paid the bills, got the lights on. Last week, we talked about our preseason top 10, or I guess post-spring.
Post-spring.
So we're going to get into our 25 through 11. And I think we should start at the bottom, man. All right, Beef.
Oh,
I'm gonna
start
let you
at the
kinda
bottom.
rush this
All right.
segment. But
Throwing
who
a wrench
got
on
at
me.
number 25?
Number 25 coming in, USC. 50% returning production percentage. It's Miller time, baby. And they have a capable defensive coordinator now. Your man, now the safety coach at Wisconsin.
Yeah, glad to have him in Wisconsin. I'm glad he's not our DC, though. But, man, USC at number 25, man, I don't know, man. Ooh, I think they might have a problem getting bowl eligible. I think they have the right DC, but I think it's going to take them a year or two to kind of get into the swing of things. I do think it's Miller time, but, man, you can see what they did with the Heisman quarterback. Didn't matter because that's how bad their defense was. I think putting them at 25 is brave.
They got that Big Ten bump.
They get the Big Ten bump, Big Ten backer bump.
Yeah, that's
Of
right.
the BTBB.
All right. It's going to get more real once I said this last time too. It's going to get more real once we get into the fall camps. We get a little bit of juice going and know where people are really at. We're going to take a deeper dive, but this is kind of our, quick little, post-spring. What's it going to be?
All right, 24, man. Northwestern, 76% returning production. Another Big Ten backers bump. Got them at 24, man. Explain this one to the audience, please.
Yeah, people are going to give us so much shit about this, but this is just like Florida State last year. They had a 77% returning production. This is coming in at 76, so really close to that. David Braun had his team what looked like it should be a PR nightmare, just looking like what happened in the locker room, like naked quarterback exchanges. That is ugly. No one wants to see a picture of that, and no one thought that this team was going to be an 8-win team, including a bowl win against Utah, who we have in the top 10.
Yeah, 76 production return is no joke. I would hope to see him in the top 25 or at least flirt with it.
Man, and imagine that.
I think
imagine if they're in the top 25.
The Big Ten is so loaded this year. I think it's going to be hard to do, but I think when you compare them to Florida State, I think it's unfair comparison just because of the talent differential between the two. Now, the returning, we talked about.
Aren't they going to play on the practice field?
Yeah, we talked about Wyoming. Remember Wyoming?
If they're top 25 on their practice field,
yeah.
Oh man, they're gonna have to move all those games to like Soldier Field or something.
Yeah, dude, if they play in November on Lake Michigan, like open stadium,
oh man, that win,
frozen nipples.
They're gonna win every game just because they're gonna be accustomed to it.
That might true. I was there a couple years ago when Ohio State came to town, and it was
that windy.
Yeah,
game,
it was like 50-mile-an-hour winds and rain, and it was just. I mean, slowed Ohio State down big time that year. And that was CJ Stroud, too. It's not like that was like
that was the one game CJ Stroud had to run, right?
Yeah, because you couldn't throw the ball. It was almost impossible. Like you'd see the ball and it would just go. It was insane. But yeah, you can definitely get that in Chicago. They don't call it the Windy City for nothing. But man, 76% returning production. I would love to see him in the top 25. That's my favorite little engine that could. That's one of my teams I like to root for. Just like to see little teams do big things. But let's talk about who we just talked about. We got Kansas State sitting at 23 with 58% production return. And we already talked about Kansas State and what they could not do in the Big 12. Beav just lost his connection. But, man, Kansas State, I think it's a 3 or 4 team race out in the Big 12. The Big 12 is wide open. I could definitely see K-State being somewhere between 23 and 10, honestly. I think the Big 12 is that wide open. You got Utah, you got Oklahoma State, you got Kansas State. Then I mean, don't forget about Colorado. If they could somehow get that piece unit put together and actually put a product on the field, they could be a dangerous team.
Yes, sir.
Man, I think Kansas State could be anywhere in the top 25. I think outside of the top 5, but man, they have a whole lot of opportunity in front of them.
All right. We're going on to the next one. Number 22.
Let's do it.
All right. I don't have a lot about them, just NC State. I know they had a strong year last year. They're coming back. They play a hell of a defensive game. I think it's them, man. Number 22. NC State, baby. Give me that Wolfpack.
Let's talk about the man for the next one. Dabo.
Oh, Dabo. Dabbing it.
And Clemson, man.
Yeah, this is Dabo's last year to put up or shut up, man. He's going to become the shit-stained old underwear of the ACC if he doesn't do something this year. Done. Just old. Holes in that shit. Get rid of it. It's time for some new panties, Dabo. And he wears Dabo panties. Bedazzled and everything like that football he showed in that video.
He gets on my nerves. I'm not a Dabo fan. Obviously, I got to give him credit where credit is due. He's obviously a good coach and talented coach, but I think college football has passed him by. I don't think he's too stubborn to change with the times, whether you want to talk about how he has like a moral feeling when it comes to NIL or transfer portal, blah, 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 whatever. Your job is to be a coach of that football program. And if you're the coach of that football program, you're supposed to put them in the best position to win. And if you're not taking transfers, you're totally ignoring an entire piece of what college football is now. And he is tanking. That is
Dabo's trajectory.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Got to do it this year. It's over.
Yeah, who you got at 20, man?
20. Rounded off at 20. I got Tennessee. I don't really like Tennessee. I'm falling for all the quarterback hype, but I got to put them there. Until I do a deeper dive into it, I got Tennessee. Josh Heupel's doing his thing. The quarterback, the name I can't pronounce, and probably no one can at this point.
But they will.
Was a freshman last year. Had pretty good stats for coming in mid-season or not even mid-season, but playing a few games.
He played in the bowl game
right?
against our team that we have at number 19, Iowa, and he put a ranking on.
He had some stats.
Yeah.
What was it? Did he have 250 yards passing?
If
I remember correctly, that's about what he had. Yeah,
it was.
He lit up the scoreboard. Yeah,
but number 19, Iowa, man, Iowa
always underranked. They always start the season not ranked, and slowly they creep up 24, 22, 21, 20, till they're somewhere around 17 to 15 every single year. Doesn't matter if they're scoring touchdowns or not.
Hope they finish dead last in the Big Ten. I know it's not going to happen, but I hope they do, because they had a great opportunity to go out there and get a great offensive coordinator, and they hire, I don't even remember his name. That's how bad it was.
No one remembers his name. Nobody.
Yeah, I know we did. We talked about it when he got hired, and I can't really remember a whole lot about him. But
I don't even want to know his name.
You could have at least got a high-profile guy to come in and run. Maybe I know they run a pro-style offense, but you could have went out and got a NFL offensive coordinator or a wide receiver coach, somebody with a little more oomph in the name.
I mean, they're making tons of money. They better start spending some money if they want to win anything. Iowa, come on. Iowa Backers podcast is starting in July, by the way.
Oh, it's coming quick. Yeah. So all you Iowa fans out there who hate what I said about Iowa, we got an Iowa Backers podcast coming out. They'll show you all a little bit more love than me, but we'll talk about my team, because my team is next on the list at 18, Wisconsin, baby. Let's go. 71% returning production. Luke Fickell / Adam Sandler back for a second season. I'm excited for this team. I'm excited, man.
I think it's still one more year before they make that big run, but I mean, they have all the pieces, right? They had the running game. They lost Chaz Malusi in the Purdue game, broke his leg. They also lost Mordecai. He came back at the end of the year. Stud quarterback. They just you lose your top quarterback, you lose your top running back in a developmental program like Wisconsin. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. I mean, they're not.
Yeah, I'm ready for this season.
Best year in and year out.
I love, man. I grow to love Tanner last year when he did play. He didn't have the greatest stat year. Obviously, he was injured, but man, like his leadership on the field was awesome to see from the stands. But man, I'm ready for this next season for Wisconsin. I think you're right. We're another year or two away, but they're recruiting in the top 25. Luke Fickell's doing work, man.
Hell yeah. And Luke Fickell knows. I mean, he had some time under Urban Meyer. He knows recruiting is your lifeblood, and he took that from Urban, and he's learning from it. So, hey, man, props to him, because Wisconsin does not recruit well, typically.
No.
Keep it in the top 25 and bounce up from there a little bit. All right. We're on to the next one, brother. Number 17. We talked about it earlier. The place to be, Notre Dame. Great place to watch a game. Man, they have Riley Leonard coming in from Duke. Duke lost their coach, obviously, to Texas A&M, so that's a great place for him to end up, really.
I still feel like the ACC is the farm system for Notre Dame at this point. They just go out there and get every quarterback.
At least for quarterbacks, yeah. That's the only reason they want to play. They want to get some scouting and be like, all right, who can we pick up in the portal now? We'll stay in the ACC. That'll work.
There's a lot of hype behind Notre Dame. They have a manageable schedule this year, and that's usually not the case for Notre Dame, which I think is going to be interesting. I can see them higher than 17. I can see them flirting in the, I would say, top, 7 to 12, depending on how their season goes. Now, they don't need to go undefeated. They're not getting a bye no matter what, because they're not in the conference. So I guess it really doesn't matter. I think that's fair. A lot of Notre Dame fans would be like, maybe they should earn a bye if they're number one. But if you're not playing a conference game, that's an extra game, man. I don't care what anybody says. If you're playing an extra game, especially in the new look of the Big Ten and the SEC, where you're definitely getting, your two best teams. It's not East versus West no more. You're not going to get those Ohio State, Northwestern, Michigan, Iowa matchups. It would be a lot better matchup than, say, those games.
And Marcus Freeman's going to have that defense rolling, man. That's what he does. He was a defensive coordinator at Cincinnati, played linebacker at Ohio State. He's going to have that defense humming. Always does. We'll see what happens with Riley at quarterback. They only have 60% returning production, so that's why I'm not as high on them as some other people would be in their rankings. So they're a little lower, but they didn't make the top 10 for us. But another surprise, like Northwestern, we got that Big Ten backers bump, baby, for Nebraska.
I'm actually loving this one, man.
Go Big Red.
Yeah. I'm drinking the Rule-Aid. I love this man. I love this coach, man. Like I love listening to his pregame speeches. I am chugging the Rule-Aid.
This whiskey and Coke is not really Rule-Aid, but I'll chug it.
But yeah, Dylan Raiola, he's coming in. He's looking like the guy that his ranking said he was. 77% returning production. They got an easier Big Ten schedule compared to most teams. I think Ohio State is the only one that's for sure marked as a loss, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, upsets happen, so I'm not going to say it's a guarantee, but that'd be the one that's the challenge that I don't know if they're up for. But the rest of them, man, they could beat anybody else on their schedule.
The end of their season's like, if I remember correctly, it's like UCLA, USC, Iowa, Wisconsin, in some order like that. But the last 5 games are atrocious. They're hard. But the first 7 games are pretty easy.
Yeah, they should be going. I would say outside of Colorado
and Ohio State.
They should come into Columbus undefeated if they can and I think they're better than Colorado. I think they were actually better than them last year. Their turnovers were really bad for Nebraska. So if they can just kill that, I think they come into Columbus undefeated.
Sims and his 7 turnovers in 3 games. Man, he cut off his balls and threw them away.
Man, I was high on Sims too, man.
I know. You were loving it. I mean, you talked me into being high on him, and I was like, all right, I'll take it.
But yeah, that didn't work out so well. All right, so your number 25 team and the number 15 team on our list are showing off their skills in Vegas, opening weekend of college football. LSU at 15, man.
63% returning production. They picked up Missouri's defensive coordinator, Blake Baker, but they needed another year for him to make a difference too. I mean, that offense they had last year was humming. They lost everything from that, really. So I'm not really high on LSU. LSU always is recruiting well. They're going to have a decent team no matter what they do. But Brian Kelly, man, he just isn't putting in what they thought they were going to get out of a $10 million man, right? Not yet, at least.
Not yet, but
besides that recruiting video where he's
that first year, man, like he did work that first year. I'll give him some credit. That first year, he did some work.
Yeah, that's not him.
All right, man. Let's move on, man. A wild card. I think this one's a wild card. Miami at 14, man. Like I don't know who we're gonna get out of Miami. Is Miami back? Is this another Texas type slogan for Miami? But man, they brought in all kinds of talent. They've hit the transfer portal.
Cam Ward, 66% returning production. The O-line coach and Cristobal, man, Miami always has the talent. Can they put it together in year 3? I don't know. As long as they don't have to take a knee, they should be good.
That's what I was about to ask. Can they take a knee? Because that's going to be vital to.
Yeah, and like we said before, he didn't even take a knee to ask his wife to marry him, and then he fumbled the ring, lost the game.
Telling you, man. But Miami's a wild card. I don't know. They could be higher on this list. They could be lower on this list.
They could bounce up real quick and just be like they're the team this year. They could be Florida State.
I think the ACC is kind of open between Clemson, Miami, and Florida State, and then I think you got some other wild cards in there too. But those 3,
Virginia Tech, baby,
Virginia Tech, which we're going to get to, is another one with the highest returning production in college football, I believe. But let's talk about number 13 first.
All right. You had Missouri up there at top 10. I have them at 13. Luther Burden's a man, 1,200 yards receiving. Brady Cook's similar to Will Howard's stats. I think it was like 24 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, something like that. Had about 9 on the ground, somewhere around there, and 300 yards rushing, something like that. So look for him to do big things. Look for the Tigers to be back. Eli Drinkwitz is the man. I like watching him talk, even though he has that fucking weird Southern accent that I don't really like, and I like to make fun of him a little bit. Still, he's a little bit motivating to me. After he beat Ohio State, he had some words of wisdom that kind of resonated with me, even though I can't remember what they were.
He resonated in that moment.
Exactly. It was awesome.
10 seconds later, as Americans we are, you keep our attention for 3 seconds.
That's right.
All right, you got Texas A&M sitting right in front of them at 12. Why?
Yeah. a lot of people aren't going to like that, but mainly because there's a dude named Jimbo that's no longer there. His culture was just negative. I think he tried to be more of like the man rather than the coach, right? Motivate young men to do better. He had all the talent in the world. He had 5 stars everywhere on the defensive line. One of them is going to be at Ole Miss, who we have in our top 6. I think it's at 6. So I think Jimbo being gone is going to really help. I think grabbing that coach out of Duke is going to change the culture there. They have everything they need. They have all the money they want. They have the athletes they want. They're in Texas, a prime recruiting ground. They have what was returning production for Texas A&M was 72%. Anytime you get in the 70s, that's pretty damn good. So I'm going to give them an automatic boost just for not having a guy named Jimbo on their team.
And I think they made a great coaching hire, and I'm excited to see what Texas A&M becomes underneath him. But I don't know, man. I don't know if that's this year or not.
I mean, Duke was looking good last year,
like, right? They're the team that's always so overrated. They're always so overranked, and they never.
And, Texas was like that too last year. Notre Dame's one of those teams that you feel like is always overranked. And I feel like Tennessee's one of those teams that's always overranked and then falls out. Texas is back. Texas A&M being back and being in the same conference would be awesome when they go against
A&M and Notre Dame too, man. Another
great... And that's a great game. Yeah, can't wait for that.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one either. But let's get to number 11, man. The sleeper of the ACC with their 86%.
86%. That is insane, man. That's like,
but they did have a rough
unheard
year
of, really.
Year. They did have
unheard of. Yeah, but they won 6 out of their last 9 games. Most of those are conference play, so not just like patsy ball. I mean, it was the ACC. They have Kyron Jones coming back. They have Kelly Lawson, their leading tackler, back. They're stacked at D-line. Antoine Powell. Rylan, I think is his last name. He's the defensive end. They are going to be there, man. I'm telling you, that place is awesome. Enter Sandman, in my book, is a place to see. We got to get there. Even though there were Big Ten backers, we got to see stadiums like that.
And that's on my bucket list, man. It's up there. Pretty high.
Taking them in almost the top 10, man. They're back.
I like it, man. I like the returning production. God, man, it's hard to say.
They might even be higher than that. 86% is insane, dude.
It's going to be interesting to see, but I think there's some interesting players between Florida State, Clemson, and Miami, and see where they kind of fit with those big boys of the ACC. But returning production, I could see it, man. I could see it. Enter Sandman, let's go, baby.
When we take that deeper dive, don't be surprised if the Big Ten backers have them top 5.
Ooh.
Well, dude, they are just like Florida State last year.
Last year when we did, we ran our little matrix. Wyoming was up there. I think they were somewhere around.
They were number 2. They were number 2.
Returning production, not for our overall, but we were like, nah, man. Like
I think we had them at like 24, 25, maybe
something
22.
Like. I don't want to say it was like top 18, but we're like, no, there's no way. And boy, did they almost surprise Texas and give them a beating. But they had some good upsets. They were a top 25 caliber team.
They beat Texas Tech. Yeah.
And we overrode the matrix and be like, no, we need to slide them back some.
Yeah. Well, because it was Wyoming.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't? All right, let's go back to our top 10. Go through that just so everyone knows. I had Utah at number 10. You had Missouri. Number 9, I had Michigan Wolverines. You had Penn State. We had it flipped for number 8. You had the Wolverines. I had Penn State. Number 7, I had Oklahoma State. You had Utah. And this is where we started to agree a little bit. We had Ole Miss at 6, Bama at 5. I had Ohio State at 4. You had Texas. Flipped for number 3. I had Texas. You had Ohio State. Oregon number 2, and Georgia number 1.
And that's where we came agreement. All right, let's do.
It's about to change, though.
It is. Let's do one more quick fun segment. We got about 6 minutes to burn. You ready for this?
Speak it to me.
Let's do the what if, man. What if Urban Meyer never left Ohio State?
Well, there would still be losses to Iowa and Purdue that shouldn't be losses and bad losses. Hopefully there wouldn't be any more Clemson losses in bowl games, 33-0. Dabo fucking sticking his bedazzled balls in our face.
Now,
but,
how about those losses to Michigan, though? Would those still be there?
That's an interesting dynamic because Michigan's really turned around. Michigan really wasn't a player except for maybe one or two of those years. 2016 comes to mind off the top of my head. But I don't think so. I think he just had all the momentum in the world. I think Harbaugh would have been gone because I think Urban would have had another win or two in there. Those wins were really at Ryan Day's expense of just being a young head coach, not knowing the parts, not knowing the pieces to fit with the parts.
I think the key to this, though, is where's Ryan Day? Is he still the OC? Did he move on?
That's a good point because he would be
Urban Meyer's success if he never left. And also, if he did, let's say he did stay OC for a couple more years, maybe after the Stroud year, he left and became a head coach at a major program. Where do you think he would have landed?
Ryan Day?
Yeah.
Could have been anywhere, man.
Running for the Texas job?
Could have been Michigan.
It could have been Michigan. How fun would that have been?
If they would have got rid of Harbaugh, like we talked about, Ryan Day could be soft as hell up in Michigan. Charmin soft. Just Urban waxing them.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Kind of crazy to think about, like, all these little what ifs. What if he never left Florida?
Oh, dude, that would have been dynamite for the next. It would have been.
I don't know, man.
It would have been Saban and Urban.
Nicky Boy came to town.
Well, they were going back and forth.
They were, but I think Nicky got the upper hand at the end, towards the Urban's end there at Florida.
Urban had a better record against Saban initially in those first few years. Yeah, he was 3-1, I believe.
What do you made it through health wise? And how many more murderers would he have recruited in Florida?
Well, none. The murders were afterwards, so they were after they graduated from Florida. You have to have a degree from Florida to be a murderer.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know if Hernandez had a degree, but probably not.
All right, man. You got anything else?
I don't know, man. We're ready to get the season started. We may take another 2 weeks off. What do you think? A week or two before we get our next podcast out? Or do you want to come back and redo your 11 through 25?
No, we're good. We'll stick with that till we get the Matrix out. Let's take a week off, man. We'll figure it out. Let's see if we can cut up. It's kind of the dead season right now. Now, college football never ends. There's always crazy news coming out. Seems like every day in college football. So
something crazy comes out, we'll be back.
Absolutely. But yeah, we'll see y'all in 2 weeks, and then we'll play a little video what the Big Ten Backers is all about. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.
God bless. Peace out.
What a bunch of Buckeye nuts. Happy Valley. You never had a buck. You got 10.